G'day and welcome to this lesson for Run by Foo Fighters. Before we kick things off, let me play you the difference between triplets and two dotted eighth notes and an eighth note. They do sound pretty similar, and that's because triplets are three even notes over the space of two notes, whereas the dotted eighths are also over the space of two notes, but they're not quite even. The reason I point this out is because in the beginning of the song, I think we're in 6/8, so we have that nice rounded triplet feel, but then the rest of the song, we're going to use that choppier dotted eighth note feel. So at the beginning, we're actually playing kick drums 2 against 3 in 6/8. So that sounds like this. If you haven't done that 3 against 2 thing before, it might be a bit tricky and it might be easier to start it out on your hands. If you go together, right, left, right, together, right, left, right, you'll end up with a triplet in your right hand and eighth notes on your snare drum. When you're practicing that, try and really concentrate on each individual rhythm. So count the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then flip over and count the 1, 2, 1, 2, just so that you have a really good independence with those two different rhythms. Hopefully that helps you play that feel, and it's going to help you get through the intro. So when we move on, we're going to keep that 2 against 3 thing happening on the kicks, but we're playing triplets over the top on the toms. And then we build up even more and play all the triplets until we have a flam to stop and the guitar riff comes in. From there we flip into 4/4, and from now on we're going to use the dotted eighth note feel instead of the triplets, but if you just use your ears and listen along to the song, I'm sure it will not be too confusing. Now the thing I really love about this opening beat is it's the kind of groove that wouldn't be out of place in a Pitbull song, but the Foo Fighters have really rocked it up and it still sounds really cool as well. So let me show you how it goes. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So we use those exact same 4 bars a couple of times, then at the end the fill changes just a tiny bit on the snare drum. And then that moves us into the second part of the verse where the groove stays pretty much the same, but we're just going to hit a couple of crash cymbals along with the guitar. Then we move on to the ride cymbal, and we'll call this bit the pre-chorus. It's kind of a nice cruisy halftime feel before we kick things off into the chorus. We have a fill before we go into the next section. then we're into our chorus. We're going to move onto the bell of the ride cymbal, and there are two different fills at the end of each 4 bars, but they do repeat themselves. So if you grab them now, you'll be able to use them over and over. From there, we're going to move up onto the crash cymbal and just play every kick following along with the riff, but we get to use those exact same fills at the end of each 4 bars, so it will sound like this. And then for the final time around that chorus, we're going to end down on our snare drum and floor tom, playing that same rhythm, but adding in the kick drums 4 to the floor. That moves us back into the verse, which is half as long as the first time. In the second part of the verse, one of the fills is just a little bit different. From there, we go back into our pre-chorus, which is over on the ride cymbal, that nice cruisy halftime groove. And one of the fills in there is a bit different as well, and I think it goes like this. That takes us back into our chorus, and the only difference I can hear is when we ramp it up and play all the crash cymbals with the riff. One time we sneak in a couple of extra ghost notes that go like this. And then at the end of that chorus, we're going to play the floor tom and snare drum in the same rhythm as the riff, just like we did in the first one, but we're going to play it right through the end of the bar, and then we're going to switch it up for accents on the snare drum, which will sound like this. The next section is the bridge, and this is really fun to rock out to. I can only just make out that little triplet thing at the end. If it's a bit tricky, you could definitely leave it out. Moving on, we keep that groove going, and we've got one fill before we move up onto the crash cymbal. Then we move up onto the crash cymbal playing just the same beat. We move into a groove that's really similar to our verse from there, and then at the end, there's a fill that has some 16th note triplets, which are really pretty fast at this tempo. But let me break down the end of that section for you. leads us back into our chorus, and the only difference I can hear this time is that we play crash cymbals with the snare drum. At the end, we have that snare drum and tom rhythm again, and then we're going to move that same rhythm up onto crash cymbals, filling in the gaps with snare drums. Now we're up to the final 8 bars. There's a couple of tricky fills still to go, but the groove that we're going to use, once again, is really similar to our verse. And there we go. Hopefully that helps you work out all of the parts to Run by Foo Fighters. Happy practicing, guys, and I'll catch you in the next lesson.